Live from Harmonics Media Center. We got John in the background doing it. We got our special guest today is our very own Carson Chavez. What's up, Winston?
What's going on, man? First time a guest on the new pod.
Hey, I know.
This is good.
You know, I think one of the things that was cool as shit is we're really, after this monster time that we were with Joe, and you know, we had those two back to back. You know, I call it the Titan. I thought it was proper that we brought you on, because it was just so freaking fierce that I got so much feedback.
Mm-hmm.
It's crazy. I got so many calls. Literally, I got stopped today, and this young woman asked me, says, how do you get across obstacles? Like, how do you stay so motivated?
Mm-hmm.
And I was thinking about that, and I said, well, I'm giving you a real example. I said, the only obstacle that I've ever had to like stay on track with the discipline has always been, for me, has been fitness, right?
Yeah.
Dominating in fitness, but then I fuck off. I go too much left, right, flip flop. But what I realized about myself is I have to stay around at a very high level fitness individuals. And then for some reason, the spark is there.
Yeah.
So the question I was able to answer was, you have to be around people that are better than you or that motivate you in whatever subset, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you want to be a great father, you got to get someone who's really kicked ass, right?
Yeah.
You're going to John, what he's done as a father.
For sure.
You know, and that was the answer. And I was like, that's pretty crazy. So kind of stepping on that, what keeps you motivated? Like, what is it that you do?
Honestly, what keeps me motivated, and I've probably said it on a few episodes prior, but one thing I always keep in my mind is, one thing that we know in life is that our time's not forever, right? We only have a short amount of time on this earth and a short amount of time to make the most impact or do the most that we can. So my motive is knowing that, I have a time that I'm going to leave this planet of what we know. And my only thing is I never want to, for example, be on my deathbed knowing that I had all these dreams, admirations, and goals. And I don't want to be thinking to myself, I wanted to do all of this stuff and I never accomplished it. And so it's pretty hardcore to think that, right? But that's truly where all of my motivation stems from, is every time, I come to an obstacle, or every time I come to a hard rock or anything like that, I just tell myself, do I want to, just give up, throw in the towel, and then have to confront myself, when my life is coming to an end, and say, hey, I didn't get to do that. And I never want to know what it's like if I didn't push through the obstacles to be able to get the results. I would rather, like 50 Cent says, get rich or die trying. And not necessarily I want to be rich or whatever the case may be, but I want to make sure that, I'm going to die trying to achieve whatever it is I'm after. And if I die trying, then so be it. I know I gave it my all and there's my certain answer. But if I don't, then you hit success in what your goals are. You know what I mean?
It's crazy. Today I was talking to, the other question is she asked me, at the level that you are today, like, what's the next thing for you? Like you've accomplished so much. What's the next thing for you?
Mm-hmm.
And it's crazy, Carson, when I was your age, that's exactly the mentality that I left, is like, I don't want to ever leave anything on the fucking court,
mm-hmm.
or I want to leave anything in the ring, or I want to leave it all there. Win or lose, I know that I gave it 1,000%, right? And that's where I'm at today. But I had to think about myself, and I said, well, what are the goals for you now? And I was thinking to myself, what is it? So I said, okay, I go mind, body, spirit. And I said, for me, I want to get to a mental level of where I'm just so at peace that no one can throw me off my kilter, right?
Yeah.
On the body perspective is I want to just always walk around about 10 to 12% body fat. That's a percentage for me that you're so healthy, but you're literally like weeks.
Yeah.
If you want to step on stage, right? And just that power. But now I've changed my whole style of lifting to doing a lot of, like, you're gonna laugh your ass off, but I do a lot of burpees, right? And stuff that's really using your body.
For sure. Compound exercises.
I'm no longer pumping the weight that I used to. And I'm not even going to do that because I'm not taking a risk of getting myself injured, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that, to me, no matter. I know that the power's there, but I'm just not going to do it.
Yeah.
But when I was your age, any person would put that challenge. I mean, I'm putting that weight, but it didn't do me. I've had a lot of injuries, right, that I have to overcome.
Mm-hmm.
From a financial standpoint, people ask me, what's his next level? And I'm very clear with this, is like, I want to be one of America's billionaires.
For sure.
and win or lose, I'm going for it, right?
Yeah.
And then the other aspect in my life is I just want to be good to people. Like, I want to put the knowledge. That's why we got the Truth Podcast. That's why we form Young Millionaires. Is really touching individuals and answering their questions, so not these fucking shams are out there are taking people for their money, right?
Yeah.
And I think you're a testament of that. And me and Joe were talking about this and said Carson has to come in after, because what we want you to kind of really lay down. Go back. You've told your story in past podcasts. We've got that. But let's start from the moment, the present of when you felt you got that first check to now. What's the motivation like? Run everybody through that, because there is no, in my world, you could tell me, but there is no fucking instantaneous. I've seen you work at this now going on 3 years, right? Is it about 3 years?
Going on
4,
5, I think.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm at 4 now.
So think about that. Walk people, you're in that 5 years, and it's not fucking easy.
No,
right?
No,
I mean,
not at all. I mean, the first obstacle that I had to, go through was leaving my classic 9 to 5, and I'll kind of pick up there. I'll speed it up. I had a cushy 9 to 5 job. I just got out of high school. I was about 19, and I got in really early, so I moved up really quick. I was the youngest person in the nation and go through the management program there, and this is a Fortune 500 company, ran by a billionaire. So it was kind of a big deal for me, and that was the first thing. Like, I had truly, I knew in myself, I was like, okay, I made it in life. All I got to do is retain this, So I was doing the 9 to 5 thing, and super boring. It was just a repetitive nature, and I just had this urge for more. And I knew I wanted to, be more than just another mid-class average citizen. And I kind of just started reading books and things like that, and came across you at that point, and came across Joe. Knew I wanted to do real estate, and sure enough, I did. And pretty much the hardest thing is I told Joe, I said, "Hey, you're the best, so just teach me. I'm willing to learn for free." And I put myself out there when I did that. You know what I mean? I met the guy, he says, "Okay, if you want to meet me for coffee at 4:30 in the morning on a Sunday." I was like, I'm not a morning person either.
Yeah.
So I'm not a morning person at all. So for me, that's like, oh my God. So sure enough, who cares? I'm going to do it. It's an opportunity, to kind of chat with him and let him know that. Met him 4:30. I was early. We were there. No one was in Starbucks at the time. It was just us. And he said, "Okay, what do you want?" And I said, "Well, you told me to talk to you when I got licensed. I passed all my exams. I'm ready to go." He says, "Well, do you know anything about my team?" I said, "No, I know you're the best, and I just want to learn." "Do you know about my splits?" I don't really care." I said, I'll work for free. It doesn't matter. I just want to learn from you and how I can succeed in the business." So I didn't work for free, of course. He didn't do me like that. So I still had a commission split. And I was balancing Fidelity at the time, which was my full-time gig. And I was also selling real estate. And I was working with Joe for probably, I would say maybe a month. And he says, "Are you ready to quit your job?" And I said, "Well, whenever I can start making at least as much as I was there," which was pretty much right at 6 figures, that was really hard for me to step away from. So I said, if I can get at least close to that or know I'm set, then, it'll make sense for me to walk away from this. And he said, "You ever hear the story?" I forget what it was, where they say burn the boats. And they said,
So it was when the Spaniards came, and Cortez burned the boats so that they would continue fighting, and there was no way to go back.
to show his men that
that they're not going to take loss as an option. So he tells me the whole story, and I'm like, okay. And he's like, "You should just quit. Make sure it's not an option." And so I stepped away and started in real estate full time, and it was totally scary. And I was like, I'm devoting all my time because I have to make this work. There was no other option. And that's what I told myself too when I decided I was going to go into this. I just told myself, real estate is going to be a thing. There's not going to be any, "Oh, I want to be a photographer if it doesn't work out," or "I want to be an insurance agent because I know people who have made money." No, I pretty much had a talk with myself and said, if I'm going to do this, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life.
Hell or high water.
Exactly. Whether it's rentals, investing. Exactly. So I said, real estate is going to be my thing. I'm not going to give myself any excuse. Even if I fail at first, I don't care. I'm going to keep failing and failing and failing until I figure it out. So I started that. I was literally working from at least 8 a.m. up until 10 at night. Every single night I was hitting the phones or out showing clients or doing open houses, whatever the case may be. And consistency kind of just took off. And, you know, I sold my first $1 million home, and that was a big deal for me. And I had a bunch of other transactions that were in escrow. So that month, I mean, I hate to say numbers, but I cleared probably in that month almost $50,000 just on, you know, all these transactions that I built up. And that, you asked me the question, what was the first big go? And that was like, holy shit, you know, that's a lot. So after that, it was almost just like, okay, how do I, because real estate's so up and down. I mean, I wasn't making 50 grand every month, but it was all about, okay, I know how to do this. How do I retain and elevate to go from here?
You know, the crazy part is that's the kind of stuff I did when I was in technology, right? As the sales engineer, I'd make some big old ass commissions. But I knew for myself, I was going to, this is the stuff that I advised you on, is I always stayed within my means. And I knew that I only had to make $3,500 a month. So if I had a $75,000 month or $100,000 month or even $100,000 quarter, it didn't matter. I didn't base myself off of that, right? I said, that money goes away. I'm going to stay off what I normally live. It wasn't even $3,500 a month. It's bullshit. I think I was living off like $2,500 a month, right?
Yeah.
But I never, as my increased my revenue, as my money was going up, I did not increase my lifestyle. I did not increase my lifestyle till about 6 years later.
Yeah.
Right. And that's what most people don't realize, is that they get the one check thinking that that's going to be the standard.
Yeah.
They base their life off of that, and now they're fucking bankrupt. Right. And so they can't even focus on selling real estate because they're up all night worried about how they're going to pay their bills.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. Me and one of my other buddies, we had a conversation, and, you know, we're talking about how, you know, there's doctors and people who are making, you know, 200 plus up to $1 million maybe. And of course this excludes Jack, but we're saying, you know, these people they're basically living check to check, a lot of them, not everyone. So for those listening, this isn't everybody.
Yeah.
But the theory behind why I say that is because, okay, if you make, let's say 200 grand a year, right? It's about 20 grand a month. And then you have, you know, kids in private school, you're paying $30,000 a year. You have, your wife has a Range Rover, $200,000 car. They're probably paying $8 grand a month on, et cetera, right? All these bills add up. So it's like, they're also kind of living check to check too, because they're so highly leveraged on all these luxurious items, which they have the money, maybe they have it out. But what happens if they lose their job?
Right.
Or what happens if they, you know, the market, what happened with COVID, right? So much people, that situation actually probably did happen to a lot of people because they were very wealthy, very successful, but they were still in a sense living check to check. So that's one thing I always try to, especially in my business. I mean, I've done well, but I'm definitely not up there with, you know, Joe Myers, who's doing 170 million a year, but that's something we're working towards. So I always have to make sure, okay, even if I have a really big month, it's like, okay, in my head, if I have a big month, I'm like, I could live my life without change for 2 years.
Right.
Because I retain my income.
Right.
Because I don't want to be in this situation where in 2 years, real estate agents are no longer a thing. And it's like, okay, now I have this time and this nest egg to hold me until I figure out, you know, how I have to move my chips. And that's just one thing that I'll be honest, I've been through some stuff, and, you know, we're doing all kinds of trips and everything. And I'd look at my taxes and I'm like, holy crap, I spent this much. And then that was like an eye opener for me. It's like, okay, you can't really be doing all this crazy stuff yet. You know what I mean? You have to hit an X number before you can do that. Because one thing with me is I want to be in a position where I can live just how you say you want to live the same without anything having to change. Or if anything does change, nothing's going to really differ for you. And that's kind of how I want to be too. And I know if something would have changed and I would have kept living how I was living in 2019, I would have probably been in the hole pretty soon. You know what I mean?
Yeah, fast.
Because I went through that where I had a lot of money coming in for the first time in my life, and I was living it, man. But something you got to go through and learn, I think.
I think most people can't, I call it like alcoholics, right? You're able to binge party metaphorically, and then you're able to get yourself back in gear. We've all done it.
Yeah.
But a lot of people can't get off of it. So they stay on that high, and they're continuously doing the same thing over and over and over again. And all of a sudden it's what a shit. I told you, I knew some sales guys when I was in Lucent, and they were living on the hog, big old house in Scottsdale, three freaking Porsches. And I was like, holy shit. Right. And they were like, it don't matter. We're just going to pull this monthly. It's going to come in. You got to live.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm back in my single white trailer with a Corvette, right? And my Rolex and out of Hugo Boss suit. And I was like, no, I'm okay with that. And I'm just throwing away all the cash, right? Because I'm not a risk taker in that sense. I mean, you know this, you know me. I don't pay full price for shit. Just not going to do it. I don't care. And I have the means to do it.
Of course.
So, you know, at the end of the day.
But you're talking along the lines of what, you know, the ultimate goal is. If anything changes in your life, it all pays you back because you can live the exact same way you do right now. It's not like, yeah, you're very successful, but money is easy to spend.
Yes.
I know a car you can go spend, you know, 50 million on. Yeah. And there's 50 mil right there. And then, you know, you can buy tons of you could buy an apartment in New York for almost 100 million. So, you know, it's easy to do it. And that's the thing I think people, they almost forget that you have to plan for tomorrow in a sense, and nothing's guaranteed. And that's a thing that I know. And just like anything else, your life can change in a blink of an eye off one decision.
I think the thing is when you're just, you know, I call it being battle proof, right? It's like building your fortress. Like, what do you really need in life? And most people don't know that. It's like in today's society, people are looking so much, and I use the social media. I mean, we use the platform. We all like it. Fucking,
it's a love-hate.
Yeah, I mean, I don't even hate it. I'm just saying for the regular people that are fucking out there setting themselves up, thinking there's this, and it's not that easy, right? It's so funny to me. You know, one of the first people I mentored in life is Lyric, right? And Lyric was a very talented individual, and he was doing it. One time he sees me up there at Cutter, and he says, "You know what, General?" He's like, "You know what's crazy? I was sitting there and I thought when I get successful, I'm gonna do what you do." And I started adding up the numbers. And he's like, "Holy shit. It's in order for me to buy one Lambo, I'd have to make $1 million after tax." And he started going down. And he's like, "I'm trying to count all the stuff you got. I mean, that's a freaking heavy spread." And I said, it was one day at a time. I didn't do the attack at one time. You know what I'm trying to tell you? Accumulate. Everything is basically compound. If you apply that compound principle, you're going to be able to be very successful. But most people, what they're doing is they're fucking off for 10 years. And then on the 11th year, want to step in the game. And it's just too tough. The pressure's there. It's like waiting all the way to the fourth quarter.
It's always like I said, it's just paying dues. You either pay now or pay later. And that's one thing that I kind of live by. And what I've always told myself is I'd rather start early. So then by the time I'm 30, I've already mastered it. I mean, you know, in my realm, Joe is an exact replica of what an ideal situation is. The guy started, I mean, what was it, 2 episodes ago? He told his story. He's now, I think, 19 years in the business. And the guy's, how old is Joe? He's like 40 now, right?
Yeah, Joe's 40.
40 years old. And I mean, totally successful. I mean, he's a top agent in New Mexico, you know what I mean? But he's already had 19 years under his belt and he's only 40 years old. But he's put in so much time early where some people are barely starting. They're like, oh, I guess, you know, I'll figure it out now that I'm 27. Well, then where does that put them at on the pedestal? Because for me, while I'm young, I want to be able to have great health and enjoy, you know, the fruits of my labor when I can, while I'm as youngest as possible, you know.
I'm going to read something that's kind of, it's almost on top of it. It's not, right? And so it says, whenever a child learns about critical thinking skills, a conspiracy theory dies. And the reason I wanted to read that is the get rich quick shit is a fucking conspiracy. You've been 5 years in the game and you got a lot to work for you or you want.
Yeah.
But imagine the conspiracy that's out there where people are like, you can just do this overnight. Take this real estate class, you get in it, and you're done overnight. And they're showing these yachts, and it's like, it's not true.
Yeah.
It's freaking not true. You look at Joe, he's 19 years in the business, but it took him about 15 years to get the heat on. So he's on his prime. Right. 15-year prime.
He is.
And so at 15 years, the thing's on. You got to put that time in that. And I'm not getting wrong. There might be those instantaneous guys, I call them, like those are less than 1%. It's the lottery winners of life, but I don't really see that. You know what I mean?
No, I don't either. And I mean, for those listening that have listened to me a lot on the past episodes too, I mean, my life motive is always relates back to lifting weights. It takes you time and consistency and so much other things than just hitting the gym to be able to get at a certain physique that you want to be at, a certain body fat, a certain muscle percentage, whatever it is you want to do. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, the get rich quick is taking steroids, and that still takes time, and you still have to eat, and you still have to do certain things, and that's at cheating. You know what I mean? But I always related to that because it attests to 1,000% what you say. I mean, if there's something that they figured out and I can make $1 million overnight and it's certain, I'll be the first to sign up if they can provide the evidence, but it doesn't exist. And that's why I'm such like a anti-Bitcoin and Dogecoin and crypto person, because there's so much people out there trying to tell people, oh, put your money in this and you'll make so much. And it's like, okay, yeah, some people do, but what's the percentage on your return? And what's the percentage that you're not going to lose?
And so many people how many are feeding it? How many are the feeders? And
well, then who's making the money off of all of them? You know what I mean? And that's the thing that, is uneasy with me and seeing how the younger generation moves is that if Elon Musk puts a tweet and says, oh yeah, this investment's going to the moon or whatever, and everyone's like, yeah, it is. And they don't know by him doing that, they're spiking up his stock or crypto or whatever you want to call it. And he's making money hand over fist over all these people trying to, make $100 on their 500. So
I'm going to show this other thing that I got. I believe in the 50-40-10 rule. Okay. And so 50% of your income, no more than 50 should be your needs, right? And your needs are food, house, transportation, and essential debt, right? That should be your 50%. Your 40% should be your investments. 40% of your revenue should go to investments, right? That could be stocks, that could be rental properties, that could be your personal home, gold, firearms, whatever is going to be a return on investment that has a proven entity, right?
Yeah.
And then there's the 10%, what I call the wants, right? That's eating at restaurants, that's vacations, that's fucking the new iPhone, that's entertainment.
Mm-hmm.
But where everyone's flipped is the majority of today's society's wants are in the 50, and it's 50, 40, 10, right? And the 40 is really not going to investments. It's going through bullshit. Like I got the newest watch, the newest Nikes, and there might be a potential or this car might go up in value and then it goes and get your ass kicked because you're not ready, right?
Right.
And I think that in life, that's what's crazy to me.
No, I agree. And unfortunately, it's completely opposite almost where, the wants are in the 50 and the investments
aren't even present.
Well, they are, but they're not doing their research on anything.
The harebrained shit.
Yeah. The crypto and the Doge. And then you'll see these things, they got busted because it was a Ponzi scam, that triangle game or whatever. Everyone was like, put $500 in the pot and someone wins. Yeah. So that's what I see is happening. And now they're doing those NFTs, the little PDF things, and it's like a stock, and they only make one in the entire world, and then they sell it like an actual stock. If everyone hypes it up and everyone wants that, then all of a sudden this thing you bought $1 for,
Beanie Babies,
someone will pay 60,000 for. That's what they're doing now. Have you guys heard about that? The NFTs.
Did you see the Gucci Ghost? Sold for $7 million.
No way.
The original.
My thing is, where are all these people getting all this money from? I mean,
I don't know. It's crazy.
We're in this huge pandemic. Everything's at an all-time high. I just don't.
But I think I saw the statistic where it says since the Great Depression, I think like 50% of like young people are living back at home, so they do have disposable incomes, or they have that bucket that they can put into those sort of frivolous things. So, and that's sort of the nature of like a societal thing is that younger people aren't going off and buying homes or so that can change things.
I know I launched a business right in the middle of COVID, so that probably wasn't the smartest thing, but hey, it worked out. But another thing too, to share a small story that you know about, for my investing sake, I would say it's even less than the 40. But when I invested, I was fortunate enough to invest when COVID happened and done really well. But what I put in there, I said, okay, if I'm willing to burn this and be okay, am I willing to invest it? Because I have a finance background. That was my first original gig. So I kind of know how the market goes. You can read charts and you can try to trend it, but you never really know.
No.
And especially when we were in that situation. So that's how my investment went on that. Like if I was to put money in crypto or anything, I'd be like, okay, if I'm going to burn this, then we'll see what happens. You can't shoot yourself in the foot.
It's my video poker money.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So that's what I do with that. I'll invest in real estate a lot more and not so as risky. because it's a lot more certain than, of course, the market. I mean, if someone puts a tweet out or Elon Musk smoked weed on Joe Rogan's podcast, Tesla tanks, just stupid stuff like that. You know what I mean? That
What do you think about like the traditional like EFTs and stuff like that? What's your take on that?
I like those because it's something that's low risk and it's certain, and you get dividends from it, and it just compounds.
You know, I was thinking about, I was telling somebody the other day, I says, why would you want to buy fucking Starbucks every single day? I did this mathematical statistical thing, because you know me. And if you're 19 years old and you invested $40 a month in an EFT, or even like say $40 a week.
What's an EFT for the people?
So Carson, why don't you break down an EFT?
It's basically like a mutual fund, and you're invested in this one pocket that has a bunch of different companies in it. Gotcha. And it's basically like a dividend investment. So it pays you out or it compounds your interest. Gotcha. There's millions of them, so it's kind of hard to explain, but think of it as it's as low risk as I would say almost even a bond.
So think of it like to put a little more sauce on EFT, John. Think about if I'm in a commodity EFT and I'm spread across a bunch of oil companies, minerals, lithium for batteries, and that EFT is spread across all those different deals. They're doing a study and saying, this ain't going to go down, this could go up. And so it kind of shifts it. So you're kind of investing in this EFT that's touching a specific thing all the way across, or there's EFTs that touch everything.
It's like a big mutual fund for a certain category. Gotcha. But the thing is, and this is what some people won't say if you're sitting with a financial guy, is that the only way you're going to see big returns is if you got big accounts, because it is more low risk. Yeah. But let's say if you have $100,000 in an account, your dividend's going to be a lot bigger versus the average guy who says, oh, well, I have 10 grand or 20 grand. He's really not going to see anything. The best thing to do is get into an IRA or a trade account or anything. And I'm not giving any advice, just conversation, but build up and then get into an EFT. Because some people will say, oh, I don't like EFTs. And I'm like, well, what's the balance in the account? And they'll say, oh, it's, 20 grand. Well, that's why you don't like EFTs, is because they're solely made for big accounts.
One thing about it's great about an EFT, you'll see like a lot of the big billionaires or even multimillionaires, you and myself, I'm in at least big games, is you're in these EFTs, like Carson says, because the dividends checks are monstrous when it's across the spread, right? And so if you're in it right, and you're pushing your financial advice, you're doing the research yourself. You're not sitting there waiting for someone to give you the answers. You got to research this shit yourself, and you see these trends. But even if you didn't know shit, and even you didn't got big money, but if you just put $40 a week in an EFT.
Oh, it's still better. I mean, it's better returns than the bank's interest.
But time you're 50 years old, you'll have $1 million.
Or even a 401.
Yeah.
Like when I started over there, I had all benefits at Fidelity, and I started when I was 19. And the person that was setting me up on everything, they said, wow, you're one of the very few that start this early. You're guaranteed to be a millionaire by the time you're 40. All you have to do is keep your job. And I was like, oh, holy shit, I made it. Heck yeah, it's certain by the time I'm 40, I'll have this, which of course you can't really pull it. And then if you do, it's all hit by taxes. So, that's kind of like a get rich quick.
But you still can borrow
thumbnail. Yeah, you can still leverage it.
So think about that. Would I rather be in that position if I'm a guy who just wants to focus on working my ass off and I want no stress, and I put myself there? I'm a firm fucking believer. I'm going to tell you right now, myself, Harmonix's 401ks are monstrous, like monstrous, right? I'm telling you right now, if it all went to shit, I know that I can sit there. So I'm scheduled 52 years old or 50 years old. I said, I'm pulling, I don't give a shit. I'm paying the taxes, because our fund looks at 310 years before it runs out. If it runs out, I'm going for it, right? I'm not leaving it for someone else. I'm going to go good health. I'm going to take it home. But when you think about that, I did that because David Wolf, he was a Fortune 100 guy in New York. And he's like, we got to get him in this volume. The time when the Bush administration was in place, you as a company could first fund your deal $400,000. And that's when I was just raking it. So I funded my fund year one, $500,000, tax-free. That's monstrous, right?
Yeah.
Have you ever seen that now? No, it's probably not going to happen. But those are in place so you're ready. But imagine if I'd have been, now I'm going to go to the next Lambo, and then I take the hit, and on that 500,000, I'd have 300,000.
Wow, it's just like I always go back to rap songs, but Jay-Z says he bought a bunch of, I don't know what
V12s.
Yeah, he says bought a bunch of V12s, and he could have bought, for the price he bought those, he could have bought a building in Dumbo, New York for like the same price he bought in those cars, and now it's worth like 200 mil.
Yep.
And the cars he more than likely took a loss on.
It's crazy.
So it's one of those things. And when we go back to when I first started hitting, you know, success that I hadn't seen, I'm glad that I got certain things. Like I bought a Maserati, I bought a Range Rover, I was buying all kinds of. I bought Jack like $1,000 pen for his birthday, like crazy stuff.
But I deserve it.
Yeah, I bought it for him. I wanted to get it for him. But who the hell spends $1,000 for a freaking pen? But I was like, I have it. I'm gonna enjoy my life. You know, we're going to Vegas every month almost. You know, shopping and having fun and doing whatever. We're going to Disneyland and all this other crap. I mean, we were living, and I was like, okay. I did my taxes and saw what money went out, and I was like, all right, well, now it's time. I got the fun out of my system. Now it's time to be the Jay-Z and not buy these cars and buy these buildings, because I'd rather start now while I'm 25 than have to be 30 and being like, wow, I have all these cool things and this and that, but I have no true assets that I can retire on and just get mailbox checks on. And that's the ultimate goal. So now my motto is anything I have, I want to own and make sure that it is generating me revenue, so it pays me like a pension, because no one in my generation is going to get a pension or Social Security, and I don't want to sell real estate forever. You know,
it goes back to that 40. It goes to that 50, 40, 10.
Exactly.
It literally is what you're saying.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's crazy to me.
Well, it's good to know I'm on the right track now.
Yeah, you know what I mean? That was a track that I took, Winston. I think, you know, one thing about me, I was the time period, like if I would have had better advisement, not that I'm hurting in any quite sense, but if someone would have told me, said, Jack, you've come across so much liquid capital. Like in my time period, you know, I was named in 2012 the top 13 under 30 highest liquid individuals in 13 states. Right? But I'm you know, I'm still buying billions. I'm doing the right stuff, you can see. But if somebody would have said, look, I want you to go out there and I want you to just buy $2 million in gold.
Yeah.
And then I want you to take another $2 million and buy an Apple. That $4 million today would be $110 million.
Just like your Ford GT story, though, too.
Right.
And it's one of those things, like I've battled that with myself too. But at the end of the day, I do not regret any of those times that I've done any of those things, period. It's just like, you know, I always tell people when I got my tattoos or whatever, that every single one that I've gotten means something. And even if I always told myself when I'd get them, if I think it's stupid in 10 years, I don't care, because in that moment in time, that's what I wanted to do. And what would put me at peace is knowing that's the decision I made.
But you're convicted in your decision. See, you're like, that's a lot of sense. What I saw, a lot of yourself in me, right? Myself, I saw that. That's why I took you under my wing. There's a difference between that, right? It's like I was talking about the decisions that I've ever made in my life. I can live with them, every fucking one of them.
Same.
Even the bad ones, right?
Yeah.
It don't matter. There's my own preconceived notion that I came out of there and I was okay with it. But the thing is about this is that when you're just making decisions, you're not convicted. You're doing it because you want to be cool or you want to be part of the crowd or this. Yeah. That's when you're going to fucking hate life.
I'm guilty of that too.
Yeah. I think with myself, I used to share this with you. I said, there's a balance, because you can never know what you're going to be here 15 years from now, 10 years.
Exactly.
And so I said, there's got to be a balance. No holes in the fucking socks. No eating ramen, all that shit. Because it's just bad. Because it's just bad for you. Right?
You and my mom would ride me.
Yeah. But you know what I'm trying to tell you? But that shit was just bad for you, because what you're putting in yourselves now, people laugh, but when you're my fucking age, like you look at the people around you that are my age, right? You cannot tell me that we walk and look the same. They're just not fucking there, right? You know what I mean? The investment's fucked up on their point, right?
Yeah.
It's because I did all the right things at your age, right? The foods, the this, I don't got no stress, I don't like that shit. You know, people are like, do you dye your hair? I said, no, I don't got one fucking gray hair. You know why? Because I have a zero tolerance for stupidity. And when stupidity hits, I just shut you off.
Yeah.
I close my door, right? Because ultimately I want my sanity, right? You want your sanity. You ask yourself, why am I involving myself with somebody for any reason? Or is it because we have an internal insecurity? Like when we're putting up with people ain't worth a shit in our lives.
I think that's what it is. And that's one thing I always say. And I was actually having this conversation last night. And I was saying, you know, I'm not going to let somebody affect my mood in my life, because if something happens to me, my whole motive is my death, right? If something happens to me, I'm not going to die pissed off because someone irrelevant says something stupid to me.
Yeah.
Or I'm not going to die pissed off because a cop pulls me over and I get a ticket and I'm all pissed off, my day's ruined. I'm not going to do that, because I want to try to always live at peace, thankful for the position I'm in, thankful for all my health and everything, etc. Instead of, you know, if something happens to me, I don't want to die pissed off.
Living
And
present.
exactly.
You want to maximize your presence. So every day you're living at your fullest capacity.
Mhm.
Like I want the best oatmeal and I want the best fucking eggs every morning because that's what it is. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
You know, I'm going to start my days like the same story with the blueberries, the whole shit.
Yeah.
And I think that one of the things is that's exactly what I'm talking about. You know, crazy, you know, shout out to me the other day, came out of nowhere, Mike Brooks. I was kind of excited to see what he's doing. The black cat, he comes out of nowhere. He's working at Amazon. He's got a full-time job. He's still doing his little photos, and he rolled up in this cool black car.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking to myself, he says, you know what? I learned from the Gen this, oatmeal and blueberries. And you know what he was telling me is that what I bring to the table is consistency.
Mm.
And you learn that same consistency over, well, then you got something stable in your life. You're not looking for a human, right?
Yeah.
It could be the fucking bowl of oatmeal with the blueberries.
Right.
That's why, like in the military, they teach you to make your bed, do the same things over and over again. So then you have a level of consistency in your life, and you don't feel like I need to get it from somebody. You know what I mean?
Yeah. And when you do those little things, it gives you almost a feeling of achievement. You know what I mean? That you've done something. When you're productive, I don't know, there's probably a word for it, but there's some kind of magic that happens in your mind that totally stimulates you.
I think of the other ones, like, you know, we had Emil in the camp, and you know, I'm proud of him too. He's working at Amazon. You know, he's got his old black car, and I told him, you gotta stop fucking talking about Whoppers. And you know, seeing that, he sends me a text out of nowhere, and he says, you know what? Thank you for believing in me. Thank you for pushing me. Thank you for kicking my ass. And he's like, now it's a walk in the park. And to me, it's like, I'm going to tell you the truth based according to the gospel, according to the general.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I really want to see you succeed. I want to see people succeed. But most people want to tell you what the fuck you want to hear, and you're not getting anything out of that, right?
And that's one thing too I learned early on in basketball was, you know, the coaches who would be able to see from the outside perspective and something that we can't. Everything feels right, but your elbows popped out or your feet aren't squared up. And it may feel normal to you, but you're such a bad habit of turning your feet or popping your elbow out or pushing the ball off with your thumb or whatever the case may be. And you don't even realize it, but you need someone on the outside to see that outside perspective, to see your flaws. And I know John could probably relate a lot to this with his boys in football. You know, there's probably so much and they get into it and they're like, no, I'm not doing this. And they'll tell them, well, tweak this. And then they finally give in and say, whatever, I'm going to do it. And then all of a sudden it works. And then they get kind of pissed off or whatever the case.
That's a good perspective, John. Give us a perspective on that. How much do you think tweaks have you really applied? Can you give me a percentage of, do you think it was a lot of tweaks, or what, like kind of walk us through kind of aiding success? I mean, I've watched the posts, I've watched them on the news. Was it a lot of tweaking, or what's the combination? Like,
oh no, definitely. It's even to where he's achieved the status now. I mean, he's the number one quarterback in New Mexico, but there's little things like even after winning, we'll come and we'll sit there until 1-2 in the morning and we'll watch film and you know, like there's a play and it's just looking for little things, consistencies and little things that you can perfect on. Like there was a time that he was sliding in the pocket and then, you know, he was dropping his hands down or he wasn't keeping both hands on the ball. And I'm like, look, had you done this, then we could, you know, you could see, you know, you could get rid of the ball right away when you do slide up in the pocket because he has great awareness, but that's just taken time and consistency to get to that point. But then we also look for those little tweaks. Okay, so what's the next thing that can make you better? You know, or what I did for him is like, I put together a clip package of him of making these mistakes. And then I found Trevor Lawrence and I cut together a package with him. And I'm like, look at Trevor Lawrence. Here's a guy that's a number one quarterback in the nation, going to be the number one pick. These are the consistent things that he does. And it's not him making a great play. It's him handing the ball off and carrying out a fake and what it does to the defense. And that's something that, you know, those little things, those little tweaks that I see that he doesn't see or that anybody else who doesn't know the game doesn't see, but how you can make yourself better, you know?
And that's just it too. What John said is anyone else who doesn't know the game, they're not going to find that.
Oh yeah.
So in the same thing, and that's a big motive for me, for, you know, the younger kids listening. I went through the same thing. Is I had to make a big decision when, you know, I was graduated from high school. School wasn't really my thing, period. And, you know, was going into college. And for me, I mean, I used to read a lot of books from entrepreneurs, really, and self-helps and all that. And they would all say the same thing. They would say, you know, don't go to school, do this. I read an article in Forbes, and it's what helped my decision. I went to college, for those who don't know, for literally like 3 weeks. And I dropped out. But I was really going for my family, and they hate that I say that, but I was. It was one of those things like, you know, my brother didn't go to, or he did go to college, but he dropped out too. And then it was like my next older cousin went to college, and he was a big schoolie. He played baseball and stuff like that. So it was like, okay, there's no exception. You have to at least go to college, you know? So this article anyways said, you know, what do you recommend? And this was from CEO. He said, take a year off of school, whatever it is you think you want to do, get involved. If you think you want be a doctor, go to the hospital and try to intern. Even if you're picking up trash, just be in the environment and ask yourself for a full year, do that and ask yourself, do I want to do this for the rest of my life? And I kind of sat back and I was like, I don't even know what I want to do. I knew I wanted to own a business and be successful, but I didn't even know what business I wanted to do. I was big in the gym at that time. And I was like, well, I guess I'll just open up a gym. You know, I didn't really know anything. I mean, I was only 17 or 18 years old, and it's like, you have to figure out your life. And that's what I'm totally against, is because it's just like marriage. My whole thought on that is it's hard for me to base a decision that will be a lifetime. Because if I get married, I only want to do it one time. I don't want to get divorced or do any of that BS. So how am I going to base knowing someone on X amount of years, 4 years, 5 years, maybe 10, for the rest of my life, knowing that I'm still young, I can potentially change, or my financials can change, or experiences can totally change me. I mean, I still have a whole life to live.
You know, the advice that I give you, Carson, and I've told you this a long time ago, and I'm gonna tell you from living my perspective, you're gonna be a predator. You're gonna do some fucking amazing things. And I think like when you think about Joe's story or Andrew, their significant others were the driving force to keep them straight, or they'd have been screwing off. They didn't have the motivation. But there's very few times individuals like myself, and I see that in you, we're naturally driven predators. You know, Brent DuPont. And so technically, even Michael says, he says, you're just fucking fierce, like a fucking killer whale, dude. He's like, you're just there. You don't need anybody. And it's not that you don't need anybody, but the advice I give people that are there, you're going to hit a certain level of money and you're going to want to experience things. And then it's not fair to the other individual that they're in the sidelines or they're there and they're thinking, well, we're going to enjoy this together. And you're like, well, fuck, I want to try this. And, you know, the bottom line is this, right?
Yeah.
It might be other people. It might be females. You know, it's so crazy in this world. As your net worth goes up and your success goes up, you just have opportunities that the average guy doesn't have.
Mhm.
And I'm talking from fucking experience, right?
Yeah.
You know, I've had the baddest cars since I was in school. You know, I'm a dude, you know, I'm 6 foot tall. You know, I was a big muscle guy. So I've had advantages that most individuals didn't have, right? And so those opportunities are there. So if you're in there and you're just kind of settling, you don't want to wake up at 45 and be pissed off, and then you're divorcing your family and your kids are fucked, and then it's like you didn't make a decision right?
Yeah.
And I think that most men honestly do not know what they want in their lives till they're about 30 years old. I'm telling you right now.
I think even older in some
but I'm
cases,
saying
man.
minimal. I'm
Yeah,
saying
yeah,
I'm talking for the
Yeah, for
masses
sure.
here, okay? Because people are gonna be all fucking pissed off at me. And so I'm telling you from
Yeah.
the minimal perspective, do not be making those fucking decisions till you're 30 years old. I'm telling you that right now.
Mhm.
That's been my whole philosophy towards my kids, is that don't rush things. There's no need to get excited and get to that point. You know, like
Yeah.
you know, even like my oldest son right now, he's going to be an electrical engineer in May. But he was disappointed last year because some of his friends are graduating, and he took an extra year because he had to go through that period of, well, this is what I think I want to do.
Yeah,
You know, and he started
exactly.
off with pharmacy, and then I'm like, I knew it wasn't never. I just
You wanted to
let him make
go
those
through that
mistakes
experience
rather than me telling him and then him trying to stick with something that he hates. You know what I'm
and
saying?
it's just like this, right? And I'm religious. I'm a Christian, so this is the thing I do. I don't like people to guide too much. I also like to kind of learn on my own, just like how God lets us have our own decisions, right? It's not like you have to do this. You can decide to go to church. You can decide to read the Bible. There's so much people I know that do that, nothing against them. But sometimes I know more of the scripture than they do. And they're like, well, you don't go to church or this or that. And I'm like, well, you know, maybe I should be better at that and I'll take ownership, but I at least know the word and know, you know, the true thing behind it.
But this is like when I read that letter, right, that I had, and I want to bring that up on just an episode for that. If I know something and you don't, and I'm over here always exemplifying that, and I'm in the sense of like, well, you don't know this about finance, you know this, then you're a fucking moron. Because I'm gonna tell you right now, someone who knows at that level is not gonna judge you. Like, you never see me judge you by anything, nothing, right? Because I know what it takes to get there. So what I've found, in my opinion, individuals that have a lot of opinions about anything, they don't know fucking shit. And so by trying to prove that opinion, they're literally trying to prove something. Like, there's so many fucking bad Christians out there all the way around, right? And the thing about they're over there condemning individuals, making them feel bad, and they don't know shit. Because it's, if they look in the fucking mirror, they're the worst person I've ever met in my life. Right.
Well, I mean, it goes back to the first thing you'll see a lot, and nothing. This isn't talking about everyone, but we all know those few. And they'll say, you need to do this, or you need to do that. And it's like, well, is it really your position to tell me what I need to be doing and need to not be doing? And that's why I say, and I kind of tacked on your story, is you're not really forcing your kids. You knew it wasn't going to fit them to go through pharmacy school or whatever, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to let them learn that on their own. And you teach them the basics. Obviously, you tell them, don't touch the stove, it's hot. They're probably still going to touch it and learn for themselves.
I'm not going to touch it.
I'm guilty. No, I'm 100% guilty of that. If someone tells me don't do this or you're going to go through this, sometimes if I know it's critical, like I'm not going to do something, go to jail or anything like that. But like little dumb things, you know, like, oh, everyone told me when I was buying all these cars, you're better off buying property and this and that. And I'm like, heck with that. I'll live in a freaking shack, and I wanted cars. But it turned out that I wanted these things to suffice my own insecurities, because I wanted to pull up and be like, you know, yeah, this is what I have, and I achieved this so young and blah, blah, blah. And I actually it backfired on me, because I actually got more negative basically hate rather than what I wanted it to do. So it made me almost hate what I had. And I said, you know what? I have to do things because that's truly what I want to do.
But if you'd have come to the general, you know what I would have told you? When I wake up in the morning.
I did tell you. I was like, you got mad at me because I wasn't even driving my cars.
I said, I don't give a fuck what people think. You know, I'm a true believer. Like, I'm going to tell you something, Carson. Like, I think the one thing about you, like for me personally, right? Like I was laughing that time when you were talking, and I told you, like, when I do something, like when I buy cars, it's because I like them, or I just like to look at them.
Yeah.
You know, period. Right.
Yeah.
And I think that at individual, you have to ask yourself, for me, look, I'm going to take myself back when I was a very young man. I remember when I was in school and I was in mid school, and I would look at guys and they had these awesome cars. And I always wondered what a V8 motor would feel like. You know, and I'd actually sit there and pretend like, I'm like, what does a V8 motor feel like? And we had an old truck with a V8, but that wasn't what I'm talking about. You know what I'm trying to tell you?
It's in your backyard now.
And so I was there, like sitting there, like in my mind thinking, what the fuck does a V8 like in one of these new cars feel like at the time?
Yeah.
Once I bought that Super Sport Camaro, the white leather anniversary, no one had it, and that round stick shift, and I just shift that car. Nothing at that moment. I felt like, fuck, I can't go back from this.
Yeah.
I'm going to work my ass out. I don't give a fuck what it is. I'm going to live in a trailer if I have to.
Mm-hmm.
But in that moment, I know what makes me happy.
Yeah.
Right?
For sure.
And I think no matter what people, my own mom told me, oh my God, you don't got a place to live. And you're in the, I said, I don't give a shit. All I know is 6-speed V8, American made, gives me that swag. And that's what I care about, right? That feeling. Right. So when I go to work, it gave me a sense of purpose. When you get people telling you, well, why did you buy this? And why did you buy that?
Mm-hmm.
And they're fucking falling apart. That's when I want to get the side smile.
Mm-hmm.
You can't judge. You've never even been there. You're talking from an insecurity of your own self.
For sure.
When I'm giving advice, I'm saying that, look, I've achieved it. I've done this. It's because I felt it. Right. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And so when I'm saying, you know what, don't go and buy 3 fucking V12s at once, because I've owned 7 V12s.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going from an advice of someone that wish would have told me and said, look, you know what? Buy the one Lambo, take the other one, buy other shit. And then that's going to do like what you're saying. But I didn't know, but I don't regret it. But it's still like,
right.
But it's like not a regret. It's like, okay, here.
Maybe you could have done something better regardless.
But
like you would basically give the advice to someone that's in that situation now and say, hey, look, if I could do anything different, this would be it.
Yes.
Whatever the case.
Yeah. So you see what I'm trying to tell you?
Yeah.
And so I think that when you're giving that advice, I'm going from a perspective because I've lived it. Like we walked the fuck back there, there's over $3 million worth of cars, right? So I'm not talking from a perspective of poverty. And what I mean, a poverty mindset, I'm not talking specifically the money. I'm talking from experience.
Yeah.
Right. When I'm sitting there and I'm saying, guys, I have been downsizing over my life, right? And like whatever. And I think even myself right now, when I had to re-roof the house, I'm like, there's two of us. And I'm thinking, why the fuck do I have so much linear space? Because you're maintaining it, right? When you're putting 2 commercial ACs and then where it's like, it's like, okay, that's a lot of work. But I'm right down the rabbit hole, so I got to complete, right? So I'm gonna see where I'm at. But what I'm saying is, I at the time was doing it for other people.
Exactly.
For me personally, right? Because I technically would have been okay with
in the single wide or double, whatever you're saying from the original. But you always wanted your car.
My original plan, right? Yeah. But I did it because of other people. And so when I look at that, you gotta do things for your personal perspective and what makes you happy, and fuck what everyone else thinks.
Yeah.
Unless they're giving you advice, like you're saying, don't commit a crime, do something stupid like that. But ultimately, stuff that could really affect you in a long-term perspective, you need to just fucking chill on that shit. But I'm talking when it's like, you know what? Float your boat. And I like what you did. You experienced it. You bought the Maserati. I was proud of you. I was like, fuck, you had 50 Cent in the background. The guy owned it. I'm like, fuck, this is a badass thing. You had the Range Rover. I looked at all that stuff, but I thought at the end of the day, I knew for you, it really mattered. The individuals, like there was so much outside pressure for you. Like, you think you're better than us and it was going to affect you.
Yeah.
And so you have to do what's good for you.
Right.
Me, it's a motivator. I'm like, I used to tell people this. I'm like the motherfucking Floyd Mayweather of Albuquerque. Not now, but back to 2012.
Yeah.
I did it. I just like literally like Michael Montoya always tells me, he says, dude, you play by your own drum. You don't give a crap. And it's just who I am.
Yeah. And that's the thing too. And one thing, I caught myself in that situation, and now me and you have talked. And once, I decided to launch a business, I was very in like a certain zen. I mean, we were locked in our houses. We couldn't really do much. And it kind of had me in the position to just think. And I was like, okay, what really matters to me? And I always want, there's always one car that I always have to have. It's an Aventador, because it means something a lot further. When I was a kid, I always needed to get one. But now for me, I met this individual, and I'll say his name. I don't know if he wants me to or not. Chris Martinez, Picasso Builders.
Yep.
And I met him. Joe was listing his house, his personal house, and the thing just blew my freaking mind. And I was just like, holy crap. And the guy's young too. He's got kids and everything like that. Successful parent, him and his wife. And I walk in his house and I'm like, dang, I want to give people the feeling when I open that door and just be able to go to sleep here, jump in the pool here, like do all this stuff. And he totally changed my whole, he helped me find what I truly wanted. And that's just something to have a campground, to have the people who are closest to me enjoy things as much as I do. And ever since then, all I want is honestly a badass house that, my family and friends can come and enjoy with me.
It's so crazy. Carson, that's why I built the man cave, right? Because so what you just talk about, I met a guy in Los Angeles. And when I met this guy in Los Angeles, I met him through Lamborghini, and he was one of the top fucking ballers. And so he takes me he laughed and he says, you want to see my pad? And I'm expecting to see this fucking monstrous pad.
Yeah.
And he has all these different places on the beach, and there's all these smaller pads. And he laughed. He says, I'm going to take you to my real place. He takes me to his office, and I literally stole the idea from him. And I see the man cave, and he has a fucking wine cellar, and he has the cars parked down there. And the crazy part is, this is where they unleashed the fucking Aventador at his place.
Oh, crap.
In 2012.
Yeah.
And I'm looking around, and he says, I don't give a fuck about houses. I want a place that I work, and when I walk and I need a motivation, I walk to the back.
Yeah.
And this is why I built the mini mansion inside my office, literally. And for me, because I work so much, I want to be able to walk and say, you know what, here's where it's at. And that's why I'm able to host things, but I know exactly what you're talking about, right? So for me, it was a little different, right?
Yeah.
I'm more of a private person, and so I don't want like everyone in my fucking place jumping in the pool. I'm gonna go to your house for that.
Yeah.
But when it into my environments over here, I don't care because it's more of a commercial feel for my, you know what I'm
Yeah.
trying to tell you?
No, I get
It's
you.
not my
I get you.
interpersonal. And so I think that that's what I learned about myself. And so when I was doing all this money, people were like, why are you pumping all this money in an office? Are you going to get it back? I said, I don't care. You're talking to someone I don't care. Well, what I've been able to do is for me. It's like building this table. And people are like, we can get this table. I said, I don't want a fucking table like that. I want a fucking granite table.
Yeah.
I'm going to build it the way I want it. I want to measure this place on I want it for me. I don't give a shit what's out there.
Yeah.
But that's exactly what you're saying. So once you find what you like, just roll with it. If you like art, you like pens, you fucking like buying basketball cards, who gives a shit?
Yeah.
You know what I'm trying to say?
Everyone has their one thing.
But that's what I really liked when John came into my life and we first started the podcast, and he laid it down. He said, you know what? I put my life into my kids. And that made sense to me. Like that actually made sense to me. And I thought, well, fuck. He does what he wants. He doesn't look like he's pissed off in life.
Yeah.
But ultimately, someone else could be like, well, why are you putting that much into your kids? But see, those thought processes don't even come into me. Like I'm literally sitting there thinking, good for fucking John. He's fucking killing it. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck in the sense of what it is, but why are people so tied to it? Or like, well, is he overbearing? Is he this? And you know what's funny is I'm always checking people and I'm like, well, I don't fucking know. The end result doesn't look like that to me.
Yeah.
And it blows people's mind, right? Because I'm so vocal that way. And I'm an end result guy.
Yeah.
And so when I look at the end result, if you're on the weight room fucking 20 hours a day, I don't give a fuck. If you feel happy and you're killing it,
that's truly what life is.
That's truly
about,
life,
man.
right?
And that's what I say too. And that's why we've always had this thing. People say, oh, young millionaires, but I'm not young or a millionaire. And it's like, you are missing the whole concept. It's not about that. It's about truly being a millionaire in your mindset. Like John, he's a millionaire in art and his mindset and
youthful.
ours, because he's doing exactly what he wants to do. How much people do you know that are working a 9-to-5, living check to check, hating their life?
Yeah.
Hating their life
and not being able to spend that time with their kids.
And you have that. And that's what makes you, in my opinion, a millionaire in your life.
But even the shit that you're doing, stuff. John, like you're fucking a badass coach. You love that shit. Like you love that shit. I see you when you're talking to that. I'm like, fuck, I wish I loved something that much. Like, you know what I'm trying to say? The passion. And I just don't. Like, you know, I'm a surface fucker. I'm gonna be honest with you. I just like winning. I'm like a fucking like just like, and people say, do you like being a fighter? No, I don't like that. Do you like being a bodybuilder? Not really. Do you like being a millionaire? Not really. I don't fucking know what I like, right?
Well, it's one of those things.
I like winning.
Yeah, exactly. Ed Milet, he's another CEO I've followed for a while. I haven't heard from him lately, but he tells this story. He's building this freaking beachside $10,000 house. That's his like dream house, right? And he's spending, I think he said like 20 million on this build out. And he walks in, he said someone pissed him off at work or in his company. And he walks in the house, he's all pissed off. He's trying to call the contractor, can't call him. And he said, the guys working on the house are working on the house, not really making much money. And the guy who's having the house built for him is pissed, but the workers are having the time of their life. They're whistling, dancing, working at the same time, doing all this. And at that moment, he said, I caught myself. You think I would be the happiest person on earth building this amazing house, having all this money, doing all this. And he caught himself so pissed while the guys building his house are living their life with full fulfillment.
And this is why wrapping up is this. You got to live with your purpose. You got to find your purpose. I know plenty of guys who are excited as shit. They're drinking their beer. They got their 9-to-5s, but they're fucking killing it. They're happy as ever. And it's all about your purpose. Do not live for anybody else. Live for yourself. Be your own judge. And whatever makes you happy, do not worry about what anyone else thinks. I'm going to tell you right now, you'll be a slave for a lifetime.
Exactly.
The only way to be truly mentally free is to live whatever floats your boat, whatever it is. I don't give a damn what it is, right? If you want to be whatever you want to be, just do it and live it, fool it, and own it. And when you own it, people respect you for it. But you can't be a fucking Barbie. You can't be one moment
right.
this. You can't be Ken because they're going to be like, you're just a Wawa.
Make your decision.
So, Carson, always fucking great. We're here all the time. We keep in. We're going to do some great shit.
Likewise.
Our goal thing is we're really one of our next monster episodes is going to be the re-unveiling of Young Millionaires and what it was about. We did an amazing episode one time. We never released it, but we're just going to reshoot this sucker. And so, guys, thank you for joining us. And on to the next Tuesday. And listeners, I want you to go out there, hit that subscribe button. Subscribe to our YouTube because there's going to be some big shit. I'm going to see what's going to happen.
Subscribe and like.
Subscribe and like. So we're out.
That's right. Stay motivated. See you guys.
Thank you.